And welcome back everybody to part 3 of the Player Ship Shop Showcase. In the last 2 parts we were going over all the ships in this little box over here, and now we're going to move on to this one. Now this one isn't as full as the last one, but we're going to have a look at what ships it has nonetheless before we jump on in future parts to the Occam Ship Shop. So let's get in there and have a look. Now for our first ship, I hope you all recognise the awesome shape on this one. It's very much looking like the R-Wing from Star Fox. Just missing the extra wings coming off the side, but still looks freaking awesome. So let's have a little look at its details and figure out who it is made by. The Inanis Venari is a heavy fighter and gunship whose Latin name roughly translates as Void Hunt. With 12 laser cannons, the Inanis Venari is designed to combat larger vessels. The ship is equipped with ISAN navigation system, along with custom add-ons for ease of use and for masking the ship's current coordinates. The generators and emergency reserve propellant on the ship are automated by YOLO scripts. The ship also has a special combat button in the cockpit that overrides the generator output to 100% when the situation calls for it. All other devices in the ship that require maintenance are accessible without having to remove any plating, and hidden bolting has been kept to an absolute minimum in the ship design. This is an intermediate level ship. Alright, we've got 23.9 for the ship cost, pretty expensive, but with that amount of guns and at this size I am not surprised. So, to start with, the overall design is mostly for the looks, because there's far too much open and vulnerable parts for this to be a obviously serious combat ship. But if you want to look cool and still have a, smallest chance of surviving, this is definitely a cool ship to try out. Now, at the front here, we can see that it's got an armoured rear section to this area, as well as some of the laser cannons in here that are definitely protected, at least from most other sides except for straight on. And we can see at the bottom there we've got 4 receivers for ISAN quad, which is looking pretty good. We've got slightly tucked in thrusters here on the top and bottom of the ship, which is nice to see, nice tucked in. Again, we've got some loose beams here, well not loose but uncovered beams, which can be quite dangerous to have. Same on these wings as well, lots of uncovered beams, but it's all for the shape, all for the look. Now we've got forward facing thrusters here to help with advanced turning, some more cannons that are on the wing, top and bottom, nice and symmetrical there, and more thrusters at the rear here. This is definitely a cool design. I'm really loving these extra floating armor panels. Like, these sort of beams being exposed is fine if you're holding up like armor plates like this, and just gives you that extra level of protection. You've got the spacing on the armor as well as not having to worry about if it falls off. So that's pretty cool. We've got resource port hidden behind the wing here, which is actually pretty good. The only slightly concerning thing for me, at least for slightly later on in the game's development when it's active, is thrusters will output a corrosive trail. And it looks like the tip of this armor section here is directly in line with those thrusters. And so this will cause problems later on, as it will apply corrosiveness, and we're not sure if corrosiveness spreads if it destroys a component, because it's not in the game yet. So that's definitely something to look out for in the future. For thrust, it's got quite a bit of thrust. It probably won't go max speed, but all triangles here giving it the most thrust for its area. So if we come a bit closer now, we see the doors are just hidden behind the wings here. Very easy to miss. Inside we've got a large fuel tank, maybe 2, I can't see below this, maybe just the 1. And it's got multiple layers of armor here. So we've got the outer hull, we've got this inner part, and then next to the tank itself has armor. And it's the same for on top here. We've got an extra armor plate here, armor plate in front, and I would imagine there's one behind as well. So nice and easy to access those. We've got a huge array of batteries here and 2 completely separate generators. Now I just need to land and crawl into this space. Now interestingly about these generators, normally these can only hold power 3 of these generator units. This one's got 4, and that's because there is an enhancement module up there. So getting absolute maximum power when it's needed for all those laser cannons. And they're 2 separate ones, so should one fail, you've still got one to keep you going. We've got the YOLO racks here. This will mostly be for the ISAN and a few ship controls. And the FCU and main flight computer here as well. Now if we come up here, this is just a small like raised section that we can come up here, and we've got access to the cockpit. The cockpit has such an awesome layout and just seems like kind of futuristic in its style. Not very great for PvP because this glass does not stop a lot of bullets whatsoever, and all these controls can get mashed up. But in terms of just usability and layout, it's pretty good. You've got lots of key stuff across the top here. I'm loving these angled displays that are not vertical, which is pretty good. You can still read the writing, but they're capped in on this kind of small angle part to save space. And then we've got some more down here and down here. Keeping it nice and symmetrical, I really like that. So we've got waypoints, nav beacons. I'm not sure what that says, because at the moment on buttons, we've got an issue where if the string is too long, it just goes off the sides of the buttons and it's centered, so you can't really read that. We've got the combat mode, we've got guns. Now this is going to be a little bit loud, but check this out if I hold this button. The deadly fire of 12 laser cannons. Absolutely awesome. I love it. We've got the same buttons over here as well, so it doesn't matter which way you look around. You've got the YOLO controls of navigation and where you want to go, orientation, destination, and same on this side, position, destination. So overall, I really like this, and you've got plenty of controls here, so it's going to be able to strafe as well as have your standard movements. So if we just pop back out. Now I believe this was made before the paint update, because it's only got a couple of these panels, so I don't think... Whoop! It switched to LOD there. I don't think this has got... This does look like the normal painting, so maybe it was just updated just to have a little bit of paint. But I would love to see this fully painted with like some like either white highlights or something like that. That would look really cool. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this one in the comments while we zoom over to the next ship. So our next ship is the Rockhopper, and it's from MX Designs as an entry-level mining vessel. It's suitable for endos that are at the beginning of their journey into the asteroid belt and need something small and affordable yet practical. The ship's features include twin box thrusters providing a respectable maximum speed, and an open cockpit for easy access and great field of view. Simple controls with nimble handling, the ability to strafe in every direction make maneuvering in the asteroid belt easier, and YOLO program power management systems. This is a starter level ship at a very reasonable 2.3 million. Just a little note about the prices on these. There was a patch shortly after my last 2 parts, and the prices have gone up quite significantly for ships, but the prices in this one should be correct. So expect higher prices than what was shown in my previous videos, and I'm sure also before early access they will most likely change again, but it still gives you a good idea. Now this ship, as a starter level ship to kind of upgrade to or start with as your first mining ship, it's got a very decent amount of crates here. We've got banks of 2 all the way through the ship that run pretty much all the way to the back here. You can just see the boxes just behind here. Nice logo on the back on top of the grill there. It's always good to have if you're trying to brand yourself as a ship designer or ship company. And the thrusters should give it a pretty good speed for its size, at least while it's unloaded. At the back here we've got a vulnerable, but not too worried about that since it's only a mining ship, fuel tank, and we can see there's a battery with a main flight computer and FCU in there as well. On the bottom we've got an underslung generator. Always good to have a generator on a starter ship. That way you don't have to worry about the power. It makes it just a little bit easier to play with less things to worry about. Its simple shape and design means the maneuvering thrusters should work very, very well, and just like the description says, I completely believe this thing to be very nimble and easy to fly. The cockpit itself is surrounded by these kind of guardrails / roll cage. It looks really, really cool in terms of just looks. We don't have to worry about an open cockpit on a non-combat ship. And then we've got a very, very simple layout here for controls. Easy access to them you can change or rewire it should you hit a rock. And all this information you need is across the top here. We've got 2 buttons. We've got lights and we've got the headlamp. So if we just quickly check that out and turn off my headlamp here, you can see you've got some cool highlight light coming out from the outside there. We've got some lights on the side. There's a light behind the grille here which can look really cool when it's in a dark area. And then we've got the headlamp area, so you can see what's in front of you and just above your ship. Very useful in the dark part of the belt or when the sun's gone behind the planet. We've got the front facing resource bridge here, makes it very accessible from a lot of different angles. Let me just check. There's not one on the bottom sadly, but you really only need the one, and you'll position your ship to make best use of that when you're coming up to an asteroid. Overall, I think this ship is definitely a very, very good starter ship and would highly recommend getting this should you get in on a new wave and you need to get your first ship. Now, we are getting a tutorial that will give you a ship in the end, but if you wanted to upgrade to this quicker, then I would have no complaints at doing so. It seems like a very good, minimalistic first starter mining ship. So give that one a go should you get in. Jumping onto this one now. This is the Shuna. Shuna is an affordable fighter that achieves a respectable maximum speed and has good maneuverability and field of view from the cockpit. The ship's weapons are attached to its main frame. The Shuna is also equipped with YOLO programmed power management systems and easy access to fuel tanks, coolant and ammo, ensuring easy maintenance of the ship. This ship is also nice to look at. It has curved wings and less of a boxy design, which is always a plus. The Shuna is best suited for endos that do not have the funds or experience for the bigger fighters, or as a training ship for mercenary and military companies. And this is only 3.8 million, which is very cheap for a fighter, but by the looks of it, just 2 guns on this fighter, and that will be the reason for its low cost. Normally you probably want to go with at least 4 to 6 guns on a fighter at a minimum to make it viable to kick out some good amount of damage. Now, a good thing here is the majority of this gun is completely covered, and that's what you want, because any stray shots that are coming towards this are not going to immediately knock out your gun and leave you just completely powerless to shoot back. The shape-wise, this ship is actually looking pretty cool. I like the wing-mounted thrusters and like the angles on it. It looks really, really cool. The tail especially is looking pretty damn good. And kind of looks like a normal plane, which is cool just for the looks and stuff. Now, the downside to its easy maintenance is easy destruction. So here we have the coolant, which without it this ship will stop working because its generator will no longer run. We've got an enhancement module on the top there, and probably the weakest part of the ship here is this exposed fuel rod chamber. And this is bad for multiple reasons, because if this gets shot and explodes, this entire ship is dead. The explosion radius will pretty much go nearly all the way to the front, leaving absolutely nothing left, including destroying your endo. Now, it's a bit weird that there's multiple layers of armor above and below, and yeah, it just seems a bit silly this doesn't have a hatch covering it to stop critical shots getting in at that fuel rod, because that is a huge dangerous part of this ship. Back to design here, these thrusters are actually aimed to go between these main thrusters, which I really like. That's a really cool idea, leaving enough space while giving you more maneuverability. Coming around here now, we can see that we have a fuel tank right at the front of the ship. Now, a lot of the time you're going to be facing the enemy when they're shooting back at you. Having this fuel tank exposed like that is very, very dangerous. And on top, that's just floor plate decoration. And as you can see from behind here, if I can just jump and land down here, we can see that the fuel tank is very, very exposed from this side as well, and that tiny thin floor plate won't stop any bullets from damaging that fuel tank on the first hit. So that can be quite dangerous. Now if we jump into the cockpit, we can have a quick look at what we've got. We've got target reticule at the front there. Very, very good field of view as per it was stated. But there's a lot of exposed stuff here. We've got all these controls which can all be taken out by stray shots. We've got the endo itself is not protected because the cockpit is open without any glass. And then we've also got at the front here a battery which will explode in the future, plus your flight control systems. So all of this can get all taken out by stray shots very, very quickly, which can be quite dangerous. We've got battle mode here to turn up the generator units. And there should be a fire button somewhere. If they've got default just fire, it should be linked to my space. There we go. So yeah, 2 guns is pretty basic and probably will do you just for training in like maneuvers and stuff. But as a viable combat ship, this is not, sadly. But kudos for the design. It does look pretty cool and is not a box. Unlike our next ship, which is very much completely a box. Let's go have a look at this one. We've got the 201 Bruiser. 201 series created by Greatmatenate is a cheap universal platform for new players to try multiple things without having to delve too deep into ship design. The 201 series ships have many open hardpoints for attaching aftermarket devices and large open interior. The 201 Bruiser can seat a crew of 2, pilot and engineer, and is equipped with 7 cargo crates, 2 resource bridges and 1 autocannon. It is an advanced starter level ship with a not so advanced price of 8 million. Okay, let's have a little look. So on the side here we can see those open ports that were mentioned in the description. We've got some thrusters here for maneuvering, ISAN quad on the top, although that should be in a 2x2 array, not a 1x4. It's single autocannon for putting up a little bit of defense. Some cool lighting inside that shows through from the outside. That's a really nice touch, but that is not a spacious interior. The description has lied. We've got both the resource bridges on one side of the ship. It would make sense to have it on both, but I guess there's a reason for that. And another open port here. Going around further, we've got more maneuvering thrusters and a triangle thruster that seems like it should have been moved forward just a little bit to cover that gap. On the underside, it doesn't look like we've got any hatches or anything special under here. And going around to the back, we've got our box thruster array with 8 box thrusters. This should give it a reasonable-ish speed. It's even got a spoiler, look. I bet that gives it an extra 0.2 meters per second. I'm not keen on this gap around. This could have been done with a paint job if you wanted to give it a different look, but leaving the beams exposed, that's going to be dangerous if you ever come under attack, although this isn't a combat ship, so not too much of a negative there. If we come into this button, we've got the door and a really cool little step hatch that opens up, flips up there, and a sliding door with a window, which looks pretty cool. So let's just jump in here. So yeah, pretty cramped interior, but an interior nonetheless. So let's start at the back of the ship here. So we've got all the thruster array from the inside here, so you can rewire this should it get damaged and you need to fix some stuff. We've got some cool lighting coming from under the stairs there, although if that could be put a little bit further back, could make those beams coming out from the light looking a little bit cooler. We've got a seat for the passenger here, YOLO racks, and then some stuff here which is a bit hard to read with the light on, so maybe that might need a bit of shielding from the light to read properly. But we've got propellant, fuel, batteries, intake. I'm not sure what the intake will be. We've got a power off button and an eco mode. That's kind of cool. Tells you what it's doing. Good to see there. And if we go around here, we've got a lower deck. That's just a crawl space. So if we pop in here, we've got lights here that aren't on. And we've got spare fuel rods. Oh, there we go, light button here. And then we've got the generators here. Now 3 fuel rod chambers here, and then 2 generator units on the end. I guess it's got 3 so they don't have to change the fuel as much. It's a bit weird having 3 but then only 2 spare rods. It would make sense if it was just 2. It could get away with just the 1, you just have to change it more often, depending on its power use. And we've got a large array of batteries here as reserve power. And at the front here, it looks like we've got 3 small fuel tanks. For a ship this size, only the small ones, I would have probably gone with at least 1 medium, but that's just me. Okay, so if we come up this way, we get to the front of the ship. This amount of crates doesn't seem like a lot or very useful as a miner. This would make it a very expensive miner, and it looks like they could have probably fit another crate in if they'd just made the ship just a tiny bit taller, which is kind of a shame because then it would have at least had 14 crates and it could have been a reasonable starter ship. Our cockpit here has a lot of space to walk around it, and that's probably a negative because by the looks of it, this does not have the greatest field of view, and you kind of want to make the maximum use of that window, and we can't even view sideways to us. The controls are pretty basic, your standard setup plus all the information you need here, and a fire button for that one autocannon. And we've got a little bit more information up here. This could have been lowered down just a little bit more, just enough so it doesn't block the window, just to bring this closer so you can see it easier. But yeah, a few more buttons up here for your power, eco mode, and lights. We'll turn the lights back on here. And a little bit of a downside here, the lights also cause reflection on here, making it a little bit harder to see. But if this whole unit was just shoved forward just a little bit, you could be looking at all of this instead, which would give you a much better field of view, a bit more up and down space on each side, as well as your sideways and slightly back view. So this definitely needs to come forward, just to give it that little bit more room. But for the most part, it's a good basic starter ship that's maybe just a bit too expensive, but it is fully armoured, so we'll see how well this does against any of those hazards that might be coming in to the game a little bit later. Moving on now, we can jump through to our next ship shop. So next up we have what looks like another mining ship. Nice fully armoured design, good use of colour on it as well. Let's have a look what we got. The GDYV Corsair is a light mining ship, comes with 60 mining crates. Now that's a lot more reasonable. Plasma cannon for fracturing asteroids, retractable pilot and co-pilot seats, ISAN, anti-collision and SOS patterns, as well as easy to repair design with access to all pipes and cables within the ship. A small battery bank provides temporary backup power should the generator fail. This ship is most efficient in solo or duo mining trips and is an intermediate level ship. And only 10.4 million. This makes definitely a much better choice considering what it's capable of than the previous ship that we just looked at. So going down here, we got some really nice simple design looks to this, with this kind of ridging and the triangle pieces, as well as these ribs around the outside, look really cool. So top marks there for just giving it a little bit of style and colour. Plenty of manoeuvring thrusters seem to be dotted around the ship for ease of use. We've got a single receiver on top, probably for ISAN mono. Anything on the bottom? We've got the plasma gun at the front there, as mentioned in the description. And we've got 6 box thrusters and 4 triangles for main thrust. So that's not going to give it a lot of thrust for this size of ship, especially with that many crates. Could probably do with a little bit more. They could have put some more thrusters on top of here, maybe box thrusters, or even box thrusters, triangle thrusters coming out from here as well, that sit next to these main boxes, just to give it that extra oomph to get to and from the belt a bit quicker. So if we just press this button here, we've got one of the doors to get into this main central area. Nice and spacious in here. We've got the seats above us there. Easy access to the fuel tanks. 2 medium containers here make it very easy to change, and you won't have to change very often with this sort of size of fuel. We've got some batteries here, 1 battery on the side, as well as hidden batteries underneath for backup power. We've got generators top and bottom, so plenty of power storage, but I'm not seeing any spare fuel rods. So that could be a welcome addition. You could just chuck those in the corners there, or further back towards the thrusters. Certainly space for it, definitely should be added in just so you can take some spare fuel with you. Now we've got all the crates here. They seem to run the length of the ship, but all cabled at the front. So that's pretty good. If I quickly press on there to reorientate myself, I'll be able to see through the middle. Yeah, no hidden cables or anything through the middle. It's just arranged so they touch the edge of the ship. So that's actually pretty cool. So looking at the pilot area now, let's have a little look. We've got a very good field of view. These beams only block it just a little bit, but are armoured to give it a good look, so we can let that off. And sitting next to your co-pilot, which also seems to have controls around it as well. We've got ISAM position there, as well as fuel gauges, a bunch of different lights. We can turn these on, and maybe go have a little look outside. And we've got flashing lights as well. And there seems to be SOS lights as well. Time to have flashing SOS. That's pretty cool. That should help anyone come rescue you should you be in a spot of bother. The controls themselves all seem to be sat behind the pilot by the looks of it, which is good, keeps it out the way should any attacks come in, giving you a little bit more time to fly before any critical systems get hit. Now, how do we get down from here? Co-pilot, that's that one, and pilot, that's this one. Oh, there we go. I like that. Everything lowers down, that's nice and cool. So how do we get this back up? Oh, we got some switches here. This is going to be, that's a door. And there we go. That's pretty cool. Space saving measure there, and we can see all the controls here. As long as they're within range of the ship, that's all you need pretty much. Now, why that came back down, I have no idea. Let's send you back up. What? What is going on? Go back up. Maybe a small issue with the ship there. Likes to open by itself. But yeah, as long as these controls are within range of the pilot seat, they will work without an issue. So always good to keep them shielded away from any stray shots that can come through the cockpit area. We've got some YOLO on the side there. But overall, pretty solid ship. I'm really liking this one as a kind of more advanced starter level ship. So you can really start, you know, playing with a friend and earning a lot more money per run into the belt. So that is actually pretty good there. Now moving further forward through the ship shop, we can enter the next area to have a look for ships. And this should be our final ship for the day, as most of this ship shop is unoccupied at the moment, waiting for more player designs. But we have the Speedstep made by Lunar. It's a long-range military ship equipped with 2 laser cannons, ISAM mono, and is an advanced starter level ship. 7.7 million for a ship that's only got 2 weapons is pretty expensive, but let's have a little look at what it's got. Now, first striking feature about this is both the lights, which are way too bright, as well as the turret armor that gives it a very defined shape at the front here. Now this turret armor is a really cool idea to stick around the cockpit and just gives it a really nice look. And is stronger than the normal plates as well, so that adds to its defense. But yeah, these lights can be a problem. Way too bright here. Seems like either these look like the level 2 medium lights rather than the standard small lights which we've got on the front here. But even though they're really bright, now these seem brighter than usual because the plates that they're lighting right next to them are white, so it's going to receive like maximum amount of light there. But these side ones, it's just all too bright for me. I think they could be replaced with just normal ones without having to blind everybody. But if we turn them off, we can see the design of the ship a bit better. It's not bleaching out. So here we can see there's quite a bit of exposed beamwork here. This probably can't be helped due to the compact design of this ship. But again, yeah, more here. We've got rear red lights, like brake lights. That kind of looks a bit cool. And I like this use of triangle plates here on the rear thruster array. So that's actually pretty good. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of exposed beamwork and some gaps here, just like on the other white ship that we saw. You can get to the fuel tank pretty easily, and that's actually a bad thing because that means it can be shot very easily. Overall design is looking pretty slick, definitely designed for the looks, and I really like the look. If we could find some way of shoring up some of the defense on this ship and filling in some of the gaps, that could be pretty good. Maybe add these same turrets again on the top, that could be great as well. So if we jump into the cockpit here, now bad thing is this is a completely open cockpit again, as per previous ships. That is going to be dangerous for combat maneuvers. Great thing about this though is you've got very compact information system here, only a few bits that you need but easily destroyed, and the controls are tucked away behind armor, so that's not going to be a downfall to your ship where your controls get hit. At least they are somewhat protected below and to the side of the pilot here, so that's pretty good. But the benefit of this sort of cockpit does give you this expansive field of view, even seeing down in front of you as well, which is very useful for finding your targets. You have to roll too much. We've got another button on the top here. It's the only other button that's visible, and this is for hatches. So we've got this big hatch on the top here. This is for access to some fuel tanks. You could have put a bigger one in here, or a medium maybe, instead of lots of small ones. It shouldn't use too much fuel, down to it's only got a few thrusters. And there seems to be a bottom hatch with at least another fuel tank in there or two. I can't get to this or look at this, so this ship will need to be raised up by the devs, like we've seen on a couple of the other ships, where they've been clipping through the floor and things like that. So this needs raising up so I can see what's in there properly, but I would imagine it's just another hatch. I would have made this symmetrical top and bottom, because this sort of hatch is actually better. So if you have two hatches like this and one breaks and some bits fall off, at least you're only exposing half a hatch worth. If the hinge on this broke, you could lose this entire panel, leaving this huge area uncovered for the inside of your ship, and that will make you go boom boom very quickly, and you do not want that. But overall, a pretty good ship. Really like the looks, but has some flaws that need to be addressed. So I believe that is the last of the ships in this ship shop. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do make sure you've hit the subscribe button, join the Discord, leave me a comment, but keep an eye out for the next part. We're going to be visiting the Archeum ship shop next, and go check out what his faction has to offer in terms of ship design. But until then, Kenetor out.